agriculture has been one of the major sources of livelihood, sustenance for people of India for centuries and centuries. There was hardly any industrial development in this country even till our freedom movement was launched. In fact, India's freedom struggle was essentially struggle supported by the peasants, farmers and the rural people of India. Now the industrial class has come into freedom movement only in 1944. I mean, till then I think their support to the freedom movement was almost marginal. Now that's the reason why all symbols that Gandhi used were agricultural, agrarian, and the Congress party had the symbols, whether it's the bullock or the later cow, or I think those symbols were essentially agrarian symbols. Now we find that gradually the plan after plan, we thought that development does mean industrial development, urban development, and only in the first 5 plan we have given a lot of importance to agriculture. From the second 5 plan, what we call Nehru-Mahalan based model, I think we have moved to a model which is tilted in favor of the industry and urban. If you look at terms of trade between agriculture and industry, I think it was always in favor of industry than agriculture. And the agriculture, while we have gone for major irrigation projects like Nagarjuna Sagar and the major irrigation projects, but they were multi-purpose projects where in fact the electricity for the industry, water for the agriculture. So each major irrigation project was a multi-purpose project. Now the industry of this country was slightly picking up, but it has not picked up in such a way like Europe, where we could have shifted the labor power from the agriculture to industry. And we started gradually modernizing agriculture, and I think agrarian crisis in India started with the Green Revolution in 1960s. Green Revolution has created a new situation altogether, because till Green Revolution, because I come from a agricultural family, that neither the seed nor the fertilizer nor power nor the market or whatever, the dependence of agriculture on outside inputs was almost zero. There was no difference between the grain and the seed, and whatever waste and dung that was used as fertilizer, bullock power used for drawing the water, and minor irrigation was the mainstay, and this was the nature of agriculture. But Green Revolution introduced high yielding varieties, chemical fertilizers, then it brought in the pesticide, then it dependence on the power, because to draw more and more water, and commercial crops gained importance. I think this entire relation has been upset, and whatever inputs the farmers buy from market, right, their cost is not controlled, it's not regulated. Now the people keep buying from the market all the inputs, but finally when they have a produce, the harvest, that the pricing is so managed, pricing is so manipulated that always they ended up getting lesser than what they invested, apart from their time, apart from their labor, apart from their whatever interest they had in agriculture. I think this, to my mind, is a major cause for the agrarian crisis. And wherever there was a water, there was development, there was a food production, there was a bit of prosperity. But that area was hardly 20 to 25%, but about 60 to 70% of Indian agriculture is rain-fed. It's not irrigated. While irrigated pockets developed, certain prosperity came in those areas. I think all the areas, 70% of the land in India which was rain-fed, or the cultivation was rain-fed, that completely started losing. Now because of the new varieties, since they require huge water, the farmers in the dry areas started going for more of groundwater, and for the first time rig technology entered. Rigs proved to be so counterproductive. Rig technology, because the groundwater level always is based on the rainwater. There is nothing like a groundwater. Centuries and centuries there was a water, the groundwater being held. and people were drawing only whatever was coming in the open well or in the tank. Now, once you started a rig and going down into the ground and 200 feet, 300 feet, 400 feet, you started drawing the water. I think within a decade, they got dried up. The entire groundwater has been used, and hardly there is any groundwater while there is a declining rainfall, and the groundwater levels got depleted. And the farmers, not knowing where there is exactly the water deposits underground and not having proper technology, engineering, or the groundwater technology not helping the farmers to locate where the water is there, and therefore they take a guess, they take a risk, and they go for a bore well, and bore wells started failing very frequently, and on a large scale there has been failure of the bore wells. And the farmers' economy being highly, such a dependent economy, such a delicate economy, that a little bit of investment can tilt the entire balance, that it can land them in a crisis, because they don't get huge income from what they produce. So with the result, what happened, whatever money they invested in the bore wells, right, if the bore well has not succeeded, if there is no water, then there is a debt, but there is no water. And because they have already raised a loan, worried how to clear the loan, they keep trying different spots, and therefore the amount start going up. And particularly in certain areas of India, the land records are not properly maintained. There is no public or the loan from the banks, and there is no public loaning system, nor we have any strong cooperative system. With the result, what happened is that they depended on the private money lender. And private money lending in India is so cruel that they charge 3%, 4%, which does mean that almost it comes to 50% of interest, sometimes 60% of interest. Sometimes they take a loan, almost becoming 100% interest. This part completely missed the public policy domain. So therefore the farmers went on raising the private loans, and private loans started mounting up, and then they do not know how to pay back the loan, and with the result, a situation came where they have been pushed into such a crisis that 3 lakh farmers so far committed suicide during the last 2.5 decades. I think this is one of the worst that ever happened in the history of Indian agriculture, in the history of human civilization. Now this crisis further accentuated by the neoliberal model of development, and this neoliberal model of development, which pushes an economic model of development that is completely financial capital. It completely dependent on urban areas, and this model thinks that the IT sector entered, service sector entered. Now in the process from the 1983 to till today, that after the neoliberal model has been imposed on India, you find that the share of agriculture, because the model of development now we are pursuing is the economic model of development of the West, and European development was different in agriculture. And in fact, even in US, if you see in United States of America, you find that the entire investment in agriculture, or the total share of agriculture in the GDP of America, is roughly 2.5 to 3%, and only 2% of the people depend on agriculture in the US. Whereas in India, where about 60 to 70% of the people depend on agriculture, the share of agriculture in the GDP has declined from roughly 55 to 60% in 50s or 1960s. Now it has come down to 11.5%. 60 crores of Indians get roughly 11% in the total GDP, and the industrialists get about 25%, and the service sector gets 55%. Is exactly the model that United States of America today has. But given the nature of the magnitude of the population, given the need for the employment, while still agriculture has to sustain 60 to 70% of Indians, but the economy has completely gone upside down, and the share of different sections of the society has nothing to do with the population dependent on that sector. And today, with 11%, 60% of the people, if they have to depend, relative disparities have grown, marginalization has increased, and there is also ultra poor and pauperization in the rural India. I think it is this entire, either you have to move the labor power from agriculture to modern industry. And while modern industry has become capital intensive, it does not generate employment. So with the result, what happens is that the employment you do not generate in the urban sector, in the modern industrial sector, nor in the service sector. Nor you can't shift the labor power. Nor you have improved the agriculture, rural economy in such a way that the share of the rural areas go up, so that the relative standards of a farmer, of an artisan, of an employee within the rural sector is maintained. So I think this crisis is likely to get accentuated, and when the people migrate out of distress from the rural areas, they find themselves in ghettos in the urban areas. So life for a common man, life for a farmer, life for a agriculture laborer, life for rural artisan has become so miserable. Neither they have a place in the modern economy, nor they are able to survive in the traditional economy. And I think it is this, we are sitting on a volcano, and this volcano can burst at any time. People are not realizing, global economic agencies which keep on advising, some of the economists who are fooling themselves, not understanding the explosive situation. But agriculture in India in such a deep crisis that we are very close to a very explosive situation. I think people have to understand, if it is not addressed in proper time, I think there will be an explosion. I think this magnitude has to be understood.